It's difficult to pinpoint the most ridiculous moment in Spider-Man 3. It could be whenever Peter inexplicably kisses Bryce Dallas Howard's Gwen Stacy, despite planning to propose to his girlfriend later that same night. Or it could be when James Franco, playing Harry Osborn, enjoys his pie just a little too much.
How's the pie?
So good.
Although I'd wager for most people, it's probably the scene where, well, you know. But I'm betting you forgot about the most demented part of Spider-Man 3. Midway through the movie, Peter confronts his former friend Harry at his house, and the two have a fight that spills into the secret armory that houses all of the Green Goblin's weapons. At the end of the fight, we get possibly the craziest moment of any Spider-Man movie. Yep, we go right from Peter nearly murdering his best friend with a pumpkin bomb to bopping along to funky jazz music with not a care in the world. Doesn't get much crazier than that. Except, this transition wasn't actually in the movie that you saw in theaters. This is from an alternate version of the movie called the editor's cut. And it's not the only change. This cut also gives us a brand new scene with Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman villain, one in which he gets to reunite with his sick daughter. And remember Harry's butler, who reveals to him the true nature of his father's death, which convinces him to help Peter rescue MJ from Venom and Sandman? Well, that moment plays out very differently in the editor's cut. So in this video, I'll break down all the biggest changes between the two versions, why I think they were made, and whether the editor's cut improves on the theatrical version of Spider-Man 3. If you want to know how to watch the editor's cut, just check the description of this video. But first, let me explain how this version actually makes this transition kinda work. So one of the biggest changes between the two cuts comes immediately after the scene in the park where Peter proposes to Mary Jane, who's forced to reject Peter as part of a scheme put together by Harry. The theatrical cut follows this scene with Peter talking to Harry at the cafe, with his former best friend pretending he's MJ's secret lover. Then there's a brief scene of Peter in his apartment where it's implied he feels the pull of the symbiote, followed by their fight at Harry's mansion. This is followed by Peter confronting Eddie Brock at the Daily Bugle, and then immediately segueing into the infamous street dancing scene. But the editor's cut switches up this order. After the proposal scene, we get a brief snippet of Peter taking out the symbiote suit in his apartment, but instead of the Harry reveal in the cafe, we jump to Peter exposing Brock at the Bugle. We get a few new shots of Peter swinging around in the black suit and then taking it off at his apartment, at which point then we get the Peter and Harry confrontations. These changes aren't seismic to the story, but they do produce some subtle differences. In the theatrical cut, it seems like Harry's betrayal is what finally pushes Peter to give in to the symbiote, leading to second-order consequences like his ruining Brock's career. In the editor's cut, though, it's not quite the same. He adopts the symbiote suit before Harry's betrayal is revealed, which makes it seem like MJ's rejection is the catalyst for his succumbing to temptation. And there's a bit more of a progression in this version. Since the Brock scene comes first in this cut, this sequence almost reads as the symbiote testing Peter's limits to see how far it can push him to demonstrate aggression. Along these lines, the Peter-Harry fight now functions as the climax of this whole section of the film. Peter's blatant disregard for Harry's life shows how the symbiote's power has fully consumed him. That's what makes this moment somewhat work in the editor's cut. The transition from a deadly serious battle to Peter acting like a goofball feels a lot more like the tonal shift that director Sam Raimi was shooting for. There are some other subtle differences too. In the editor's cut, some extra shots show Peter taking off the symbiote suit after he confronts Brock at the Bugle, which means he's not wearing it when he talks to Harry at the cafe, where his demeanor is much more relaxed and even-keeled. It all just makes it a bit more clear that the suit is what's making Peter aggressive, and when he's not wearing it, he's more like his normal self. And I like this creepy touch in the editor's cut where it includes an extra shot of the black suit pulsating just before Peter puts it on. And the mansion fight scene itself actually begins differently depending on the cut as well. In the theatrical cut, emo Peter arrives looking like he's got no time to waste, immediately asking Harry what he did to MJ.
What did you do to her?
I did what you failed to do. I was there for her. Mary Jane and I, we understand each other.
She doesn't know what you are.
Peter, she knows me very well.
But in the editor's cut, we get another glimpse of the smirking, carefree Peter that the symbiote brings out. When he shows up, Peter isn't standing at the balcony entrance. He's lying down. This recalls similar scenes from the first two movies when both Harry's father, Norman Osborn, and Spider-Man lay on that same lounger. In a way, it seems like this Peter is mocking Harry by recalling the moment Harry learned his father died. Peter's dialogue and body language are also different here. He seems very relaxed about the whole situation until Harry taunts him about kissing MJ.
That was quite a performance today.
Well, it wasn't all a show. She did come to me.
Yeah, I got the story. I am really gonna enjoy this.
Not as much as I enjoyed it when Mary Jane kissed me.
Now, as much as I like these changes in the editor's cut, they don't all flow perfectly. For one thing, it's kind of jarring to me for the cafe scene to come so long after the breakup in the park. In the theatrical cut, the scenes are one after the other, meaning Peter goes to Harry right after MJ breaks up with him, which makes a bit more sense. And while that one transition in the editor's cut is bold, I have to admit that visually, the transition in the theatrical cut plays better, going from Peter walking into the camera to zooming out from his chest as he hides the suit. Overall, while the editor's cut shows the symbiote having more of a gradual effect on Peter as his antics ramp up, I prefer the theatrical cut's version of Peter having an outburst of violence early on with the fight at Harry's house. After seeing Peter at his most unhinged, it raises the tension as you don't know what to expect from him throughout the rest of the sequence. But neither cut is that much better than the other in this particular instance. But the editor's cut also makes some more subtle adjustments to Peter and Harry's relationship towards the end of the movie. Just before the final battle scene, Peter visits Harry asking for his help to stop Sandman and Venom and rescue MJ. The bulk of the scene is unchanged, until we get to the key turning point. In the theatrical version, Harry's butler Bernard reveals to Harry that his father Norman died of self-inflicted wounds caused by his glider, meaning Spider-Man isn't responsible for his father's death. That's the catalyst that causes Harry to come and help his friends at the end of the movie.
The blade that pierced his body came from his glider. I know you're trying to defend your father's honor, but there's no question that he died by his own hand.
I don't know about you, but this scene always rang false to me. How can Bernard recognize that Norman's wounds came from his glider? How is he even able to figure out that Norman accidentally killed himself just from that? I mean, it's a bit bizarre he's able to piece all this together. I get why he might have withheld this information from Harry, as perhaps he thought it would hurt Harry even more to learn how his father really died. And it is nice that this character who's popped up here and there throughout the trilogy finally makes a meaningful impact on the story. But the whole scene feels contrived to get Harry to forgive Peter in time for the climax. So how does the editor's cut handle it? In this version, Bernard's conversation with Harry is removed. Instead, we get a brief moment where after Peter leaves, Harry stares at a photo of him and Peter and MJ, which makes him reconsider helping his friends. Look, I'm sorry, but I don't really like this either. Yes, it gives Harry a bit more agency since he makes the decision on his own, and it ties into the movie's theme of forgiveness. But I still don't like that Harry never finds out the truth of what happened to his father and that Spider-Man is innocent. especially since he's seen joking with him later in the final battle. Yes, Peter did tell Harry earlier in the movie that his father killed himself.
I didn't kill your father! He was trying to kill me! He killed himself! Shut up!
But we never get the sense at any other time that Harry is starting to believe Peter. As a result, it feels like there needs to be a bit more of an impetus for him to come to his friend's aid. So this scene is kind of a wash for me between the two versions. But now let's talk about a brand new scene exclusive to the editor's cut that involves one of the movie's other villains, Sandman. Did you ever feel like Sandman's family kinda got the short shrift in this movie? Then you might be interested in this added scene. Immediately after Sandman reconstitutes himself after Spidey tried to kill him in the sewer, we get this scene where he visits his daughter Penny in a park in the form of a sandcastle. After they briefly interact, Penny and her mom leave, and Sandman states that he won't let Spider-Man get in his way again.
I swear to you, he won't stop me again.
You might be wondering at this point, why the hell would they take this scene out? It gives us a reminder of Sandman's motivation, especially since in the theatrical version, we never even see his daughter again after her first scene. It also gives us a bit more insight into what kind of disability his daughter has. And I like to think that this scene implies that she knows it's him when she touches the sandcastle. That's all well and good, but I can see why they cut this scene. For one thing, it's a bit repetitive coming right after the previous one. When Sandman comes out of the sewer, he takes a moment to look at the locket reminding him of his daughter, which is enough to remind us of what's at stake for him without spending time on this additional scene. And the final series of shots are weirdly edited. There's a shot of Penny and her mom leaving the park, and then a hard cut back to Sandman, who's rematerialized into human form close by. But because we don't get both of them in the same shot, we don't really have a sense of where they are in relation to each other, or the timing of Sandman's transition into human form. So it almost seems like Penny and her mom could sort of see him. Plus, with no effect shot showing Sandman rematerializing, it makes the scene feel cheap and unfinished. I do really like the visual of the sandcastle, but I just wish there was a bit more meat to this scene to justify its inclusion. As it is now, I can understand why Raimi cut it. Now, the editor's cut doesn't just add scenes. There's a reason it's actually 2 minutes shorter than the theatrical cut. It also deletes a few sequences as well. The first one in question involves Peter's landlord, Mr. Ditkovich, and his daughter, Ursula. Peter is trying to make amends with MJ after he rejected her help earlier, but he's struggling to pick up the phone and call her. He gets interrupted by Ditkovich and Ursula, prompting Peter to apologize for yelling at him earlier to fix his door. And then there's some comedy as Ditkovich and Ursula try to give him some romantic advice.
I was trying to figure out what to say.
If it's a woman you're calling, then you say, "You're a good woman, I'm good man."
The editor's cut removes this scene entirely, which means that a later moment between Peter and Ursula also had to be adjusted. After Mary Jane returns from visiting Harry, only for him to be waiting for her at her apartment, we cut back to Peter's apartment, where Ursula informs Peter that MJ is on the line. Now, there's nothing earth-shattering here, but it's interesting to note the subtle differences since they clearly use different takes for this scene. For example, in the theatrical cut, Ursula struggles to open Peter's broken door like everyone else, but in the editor's cut, she opens it more easily. I'm guessing they wanted to add a bit more lightheartedness in the theatrical cut, so they made Ursula's entrance a little more awkward. Now, in the editor's cut, because it removed the earlier scene of Peter apologizing to Mr. Ditkovich, here he apologizes to Ursula for his outburst, and she quickly forgives him before telling him MJ called.
Ursula, hey, listen, I really shouldn't have spoken.
Don't worry about it. You're a good boy. It's Mary Jane.
It's also interesting that when Ursula first knocks in the editor's cut, Peter sounds a lot more depressed, hinting how wearing the symbiote suit has taken its toll on him.
Yeah.
But there are also just some odd changes in the editor's cut. It removes Ursula's line saying that MJ called back. I guess because we don't have the earlier scene of Peter attempting to call MJ. But that seems unnecessary because in the previous scene we see MJ listening to Peter's voicemail. So if Ursula said MJ called back, that line would still make sense in the editor's cut. Also, in the alternate version, when Ursula tells Peter it's MJ on the phone, he barely reacts. I guess you could explain it by saying he's less enthusiastic because of the symbiote's effects, but I prefer the theatrical version where he gets up excitedly at the news that MJ called back. It just makes more sense.
It's Mary Jane. She called back.
Really?
Yeah.
But here's the more egregious removal in the editor's cut. In the theatrical version, after Peter finally rids himself of the symbiote at the church, Aunt May visits Peter at his apartment, where he tries to give back her ring, saying he hurt MJ and he's not ready to marry her. But Aunt May reaffirms that she believes in Peter and leaves the ring with him.
I believe in you, Peter. You're a good person. And I know you will find a way to put it right.
To me, the biggest flaw of the editor's cut is removing this scene, which is so crucial to the movie's themes of forgiveness. In Aunt May's earlier scene where Peter breaks the news that Spider-Man killed Sandman, the movie touches on the importance of forgiving others, but Aunt May takes it a step further in this scene by saying,
You start by doing the hardest thing. You forgive yourself.
And it also allows her to have more of an impact on the story, providing a payoff to her earlier scene advising Peter on marriage, including her once again giving him her ring to propose to MJ. Rosemary Harris really was the secret MVP of these movies. Now, we've talked about most of the story changes in the editor's cut, but there's one other aspect between the two versions we should mention: the music. While Danny Elfman scored the first two Spider-Man films, he left the series due to a disagreement between him and Sam Raimi, who brought on Christopher Young to compose the score for Spider-Man 3. Now, Elfman's music in the first two movies is great, still one of the best superhero movie scores of all time, but I want to make it clear that Young is no slouch either. After all, he's the guy who gave us this theme. But the thing is, some of Young's original music for Spider-Man 3 was never used, with the filmmakers opting instead to lean on the more familiar cues from the first two movies in certain scenes. The editor's cut swaps out some of these cues with Young's original music, and the results are, like the rest of the changes in this version, kind of mixed. For example, the editor's cut replaces a lot of the established character leitmotifs with Young's original music. In the early scene where Peter talks to Harry outside the theater, there's a different cue in the editor's cut. Which, it's fine, but I think it makes more sense to use the Green Goblin theme here as the theatrical cut did. We had another instance of this later when MJ walks past Harry after rejecting Peter's proposal on the bridge. Again, the editor's cut music is serviceable. But why not leave in the Goblin theme here like the theatrical cut did? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now, whether you appreciate the editor's cut's music really comes down to how you feel about the new love theme, or the new Mary Jane theme, that Young introduced in this movie. You can hear it in the editor's cut in the early scene where Peter and MJ are gazing at the sky while nestled in the giant web. And to be fair, I do like how the editor's cut deploys this new theme in certain places. Take the scene where MJ is walking through the city after losing her role in the play. Here, the theatrical cut uses a version of the original love theme. But I actually like how the editor's cut inserts Young's new theme here, especially by making the piano prominent. It all just feels so much sadder and puts us more in the mindset of how MJ is feeling. And yet, like I mentioned before, sometimes I think the theatrical score just fits better. There's probably no better example than in the final shot of the movie with Peter and MJ sharing a quiet dance in the jazz club. Again, the editor's cut inserts Young's love theme, but it's just a little too bombastic for a scene that's supposed to be more emotionally muted. The score they went with in the theatrical is a little more subtle, and it feels much more appropriate for the bittersweet note that the movie ends on. Plus, because it uses the original love theme from the first two movies, there's a nice full circle moment here, reminding us of just how much Peter and MJ have grown and changed together since the first movie. If it wasn't obvious by now, the editor's cut doesn't magically fix Spider-Man 3's many issues. It's more of a fine-tuning of the movie than a complete overhaul. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have value. The question is it a better version of Spider-Man 3 than the one that made it to theaters? Probably its biggest impact is altering our understanding of how the symbiote slowly takes over Peter's personality. In the editor's cut, it seems that his breakup with MJ is what drives Peter to give into the suit, culminating in his battle with Harry and that wild transition I talked about. But while I do appreciate the new perspective, I prefer the more natural flow of events in the theatrical cut, with MJ driving Peter to talk to Harry, and Harry's betrayal triggering his turn to the dark side, if you will. That's a running pattern throughout a lot of the editor's cut, which adds new or alternate scenes that are interesting, but not necessarily superior to the theatrical version. Removing Bernard from the scene in which Harry has a change of heart certainly simplifies the story, but it still leaves the dangling plot thread of Harry learning that Spider-Man is innocent, which to me isn't an improvement. And same goes for the sandcastle scene, which gives us another much needed moment with Sandman and his daughter, but still feels repetitive with what's already in the movie. Meanwhile, some of the changes just feel unnecessary, like removing Peter's apology to Mr. Ditkovich and his final scene with Aunt May. Cutting these moments, along with the Bernard scene, reduces the rich supporting cast that Raimi has built up over all three films, and makes the world of Spider-Man feel a little smaller. And while I'm glad to see Christopher Young's own score get some more play in this version, I find myself missing the original character themes we've become familiar with over the last two movies, and removing them in the editor's cut also removes some of the cohesiveness of the trilogy. The simple fact is that no amount of tinkering and post-production can save Spider-Man 3. The issues with the script and the performances go to a much deeper level that can't be addressed merely through moving some scenes and music around. So in that sense, the editor's cut might be a disappointment for fans of the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy who wanted a more satisfying conclusion. Instead, I try to view the editor's cut not as a different movie, but a different flavor of the movie that we ultimately got. It provides a glimpse into some of the choices the filmmakers made while putting the film together. And while it has its bright spots, not enough of the changes in the editor's cut definitively improve on its predecessor, making me still prefer the version of Spider-Man 3 that we got in theaters. Now, if you're curious why it's called an editor's cut and not a director's cut, that's mostly because this version did not have Sam Raimi's involvement. It was actually put together by his editor, Bob Murawski, who worked on all three Raimi Spider-Man movies. Unfortunately, this version barely got any fanfare when Sony did release it, so most people aren't even aware it exists. But if you want to know how to watch it, check out the description of this video for more info. And if you're curious about other superhero movies with alternate cuts, you might be interested in my Superman 2 video about the Donner cut. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.